Very warm welcome to all of those who are on the session this afternoon. My name is Amy Tiberio. I'm the Dean of Admission at Roger Williams University. You can see the university behind me here, which is an actual photo. I'm not actually sitting in front of it, but it is an absolutely gorgeous place to be, and we're all very much looking forward to being back there as soon as we possibly can. But in the absence of being able to be in community with you in person and on campus, these virtual sessions have been a wonderful way to still connect and to share information, and to connect you with the Roger Williams community, because there are so many things that make Roger Williams a special place, but the members of our community, I think, are up there, if not the number one. So that has been something that we've really enjoyed being able to do, even through the virtual methods. We are going to get started with the presentation in just a moment. I do want to let folks know that we really would love for you to engage in question and answer after the presentation. And the way that we've found that really works well to do this is to use the chat feature in your Zoom. And if you type in your question into the chat, once we've completed the presentation, I will read those questions aloud on your behalf, and we'll answer those for you. So if you have questions that come up during the presentation, you can feel free to just go ahead and type those in, and then we'll have sort of a log of questions that we'll get through. So that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dean Susan McTiernan, who's the Dean of our Gabelli School of Business.
Thank you, Amy, and thanks to all of you for joining us. I do hope that all of you are staying safe and well during these challenging times. This is a very special afternoon for us because, as Amy said, Roger Williams is a very special place. We're hoping to get back to that gorgeous location behind Amy soon. And the people really are what characterize Roger in so many ways. And one of the very special people associated with the university is Mr. Tim Baxter. And Mr. Baxter has so many talents. I don't want to spend all our time on those. We could, certainly. But among other things, Tim is a graduate of the Gabelli School of Business. He was a marketing major. He was a good student, and he has gone on to do great things. His most recent position was as president and CEO of Samsung North America. If you have your mics on, could you mute them? We're getting a little background noise. Thank you. So we're delighted to have Tim Baxter with us this afternoon. He has some thoughts and insights to share about his experience at Roger Williams and at the Gabelli School of Business. And I'm going to turn it over to him for his comments. And please make sure that you write down your questions, because both Tim and I will be taking questions at the end of the presentation. For our people who are with us, could you mute your mic? We're getting some background noise. Okay, Mr. Baxter. Tim, you're muted too.
That would help a little bit, wouldn't it?
I also neglected to mention one really important thing, and that is that Tim Baxter is the current chair of the Board of Trustees of Roger Williams University, and he spends a lot of time working on projects for the university in that capacity. So let me turn it over to you now, Tim. Now that you're unmuted, you're ready to go.
Thanks, Susan, and thanks, Amy, and I appreciate everybody spending some time on a Sunday afternoon with us, and I'm excited to, spend a few minutes with you as well. And first off, I hope everybody is safe and sound and has been able to navigate and is navigating this new world and in some very interesting ways. But I'm hoping that you and your families and friends are all safe and sound, number one. Number two is congrats. Congratulations on being accepted to Roger Williams University and the Gabelli School of Business. It is a very, very interesting university, and something I have grown to have a lot of passion for, not only having gone here a very, very long time ago, and graduated way back in 1983. But also, my son graduated from Gabelli School of Business in 2010. And he too is working in his field of study. And as a parent, that's a pretty good thing, and that's a pretty important thing. So again, welcome and being accepted. And I know you have some decisions to make. And our goal here is to share a little bit about some of my background and how Roger Williams helped me kickstart my career, and hopefully that will be of value to you. I'd also say, I feel for you all. And having your senior year of high school disrupted the way it is, having graduations and proms and other events put in limbo or canceled or otherwise, and just that opportunity to connect with your close friends and others during this senior year is a tough one. I can appreciate some of that because my daughter is a senior at Penn State, and while not a senior in high school, it's very similar. And she's missing her senior spring semester and graduation and all of the things that come along with it, and stressing over entering into uncharted territories in terms of employment post-college. So I think I have a little taste of what you all are experiencing on that. But it is quite amazing to see how the world has changed in the last month. And I think this notion of change is what I want to touch a little bit on, and talk a little bit about how embracing change was a big part of my career. And it all began at Roger Williams, and I'll talk a little bit about what that role Roger Williams played in preparing me. I can say without a doubt that I grew up at Roger Williams. I matured at Roger Williams, and it really helped me embrace change throughout my career. So if you can flip to the next chart, Amy. So I spent my career of 35 years split between these three big companies. AT&T is not the AT&T that most of you know today. It was actually what was the single monopoly Bell system, the telephone company. Sony and Samsung, and roughly 10 to 13 years each one of those three companies. But change was a big part of all of these. AT&T was broken up. It was a monopoly, and it was forced to really change and compete. Sony, you may not remember this, but your parents would. Sony was really the Apple of its day. It had to navigate going from an analog world to a digital world. And then there was this emergence of this innovative new company or growing company, Samsung, that really took the market by storm. And build out the slide if you can. And during that period, I had different jobs in all of these functional areas. And I say this because there's basically a class or two in Gabelli School of Business on each one of these. And you're going to get, if you choose to join us, opportunities to learn and experience all of these that frankly helped me build my career. Go to the next slide. And I say that because these skills, these jobs, for me anyway, served as foundations. And I thought about my career in a bit of a pyramid way, where you build a lot of functional expertise. For me, that was sales and finance and product management, supply chain. And then building that capability and going wide and learning different things helped me move up into more operational roles and strategy roles, and ultimately into business leadership roles. So this was about building a foundation, and each of these roles built a bit of a competency. And I think this is important because everybody wants to think about their career as this straight line up. And generally it doesn't work that way. But getting yourself exposed to different functional experiences I think is important. And I think Gabelli School of Business will show you how to do some of that and get exposed to more and different things. And I'll touch upon that a little more. Next. And maybe a little fun history here. You know, when I think about my career, you guys might not know what many of these things are on this page, but this was what technology looked like, you know, in the early '80s, and these were generally shared technologies. But if you build out to the next slide, and nope, go back one. I'm sorry. And what you see today and what we've seen now is this movement from shared technologies to sort of these discrete digital tools, and new business models began to emerge as a result of this. And so this was a period of, you know, a couple decades shift, but it was big change that occurred. And go to the next slide and build it out if you can. And now we're on the cusp of another huge change. One more click on that, Amy. New technologies like 5G, AI, the cloud, new user interfaces are going to propel a big fundamental shift in how products and services work together. And you see that today, whether it's on Ring and I'm looking at my phone, or I'm on Peloton on my phone, or my music. 5G is going to fundamentally change the way we think about products and services. But the point here is, we are on the cusp of another big technology revolution, a significant one, and you're right in the middle of it. These technologies will fundamentally change not just our consumer electronics and the businesses that I was in, but it will change transportation, it'll change healthcare, manufacturing, and all of these technologies are about ready to explode. And I think it's an important piece because, again, it represents fundamental change. Next. So a few things I learned in my career. Again, embrace changes right in the middle of it. But the successes that I have seen and the successes that I've had and others, I'm anchored around these 4 or 5 themes about really be aggressive, but be humble. You can have success. You can be the starting quarterback. You can be the top of your class in Scholastic, you name it. But if you can do that and be hungry, but be humble, you'll have great success. Be transparent with people. Connecting the dots. One of the biggest things that you're going to learn, and universities like Roger Williams do an excellent job on this, and it prepares you for the real world, is how do you connect with people? How do you connect maybe with people that think differently, act differently, look differently? That is going to be, in business, one of the most important criteria for success. And being able to get comfortable being uncomfortable in those situations, whether it be working at groups, and Roger Williams does an excellent job on this, and all of which prepares you for working with different functional groups, with different styles and different people. I always was a believer of this and learned it at Roger Williams, that you can actually choose to out-hustle them. You know, there may be smarter people out there, but you can choose to out-hustle them, and you can also do courageous things. So flip to the next slide, and it's my last slide. And I want to just touch very briefly on how Roger Williams actually helped me. And I think this is important as it relates to Gabelli as well as to the university at large. It helped me overcome adversity. You might not know this, but my freshman year, I got sick around Thanksgiving, and I missed from Thanksgiving to Christmas. So I ended up my freshman year, first semester, with 5 incompletes. Not the best way you want to start your career. But with a lot of support from the university, I came back and finished those 5 classes, plus took 4 new classes that year. And something clicked in for me there. It was really a pivotal point, and I think it was some of the support services that a university like Roger Williams provides and does this excellent, helped me overcome a real big challenge and positioned me for success. And I wasn't the, I didn't have Ivy League schools coming to get me either. I probably wouldn't have gotten into Roger Williams today with my grades in high school. But overcoming this situation helped me change my thinking, change my approach, change my priorities. And I ultimately finished the university graduating with honors. So, and that was a critical point. And I think a big part of it is small classes and personal attention. I have two of my kids that went to big schools. My son and I went to smaller schools, and we all learned differently, and we all really approach things differently. And for me, small classes and personal attention went a long way for me to grasp the workload as well as apply it in effective ways. What Roger Williams has that not a lot of schools do, it has a great combination of dedicated schools like Gabelli School of Business or engineering school or our architect or so there's many specialized schools there combined with a general education that I think is important because it gets and delivers more rounded students for the business world. And so I think this is something you really need to think about when you're looking at your choices of universities. The combination of those two things, I think, is pretty unique. And speaking of unique, nobody that I'm familiar with has as many community engagement and civic scholars and real life programs that are going to prepare you for the real world. I had an internship and co-ops, and those things were the two most important things that I could come out of the university with, not only because I had something to put on my resume, other than my grade point average, but it also gave me a way to communicate to prospective employers that I can apply this in the real world. And maybe Susan can talk a little bit about that after I'm done, but some of the things we do with community centers, I was able to go in, and in fact, my son did the same when he was there in 2010, and we're doing it far more today. We're going in and you're helping a small business in the area. You're learning about their business. You're bringing strategies and suggestions and ideas to that business to help them. Or you're working in community engagement initiatives all around becoming not only more rounded individuals, but better prepared for the world post college. Passionate professors. I am still close with some of the professors that I had. There was one or two in particular that are still there. And there's a host of new and fresh thinking that exists throughout the university with some of the best minds, and they are passionate. And when you can apply and combine passion with small classes, it's a pretty impressive combination there. And the last point here is alumni engagement. I was up speaking at Gabelli School of Business about 60 days ago, and went in and guest lectured in about 4 or 5 different classes. And I say that because that was pretty cool and I enjoyed doing it. But more importantly, I remember to this day when I was a junior at Roger Williams and a graduate alum came in, and this gentleman was probably 5 years out of school. He was working for a PC company at the time, and he came in and did the same thing. And I just listened to him and came out of there with a level of confidence, like, I can do that. I can have success coming out of Roger Williams. I can have success in the business world. And the fact that I remember that 40 years later, as if it was 2 days ago, meant a lot to me about what the university is, what the university stands for. And these speaker series enable you to hear and feel and understand some of the successes and some of the challenges that alum have had. And having an alumni association that allows for that and connects with active students and graduating students is, I think, pretty impressive. So I'd say it this way, that Roger Williams took a chance on me coming into the university. I told you I didn't have the best grades, But I grew up here. I grew up at Roger Williams, and it helped me build a foundation. It helped me build that confidence. It enabled me to get some internships, all of which helped me get that first job at AT&T. And then I applied some values that I had around out hustling them, about being humble, having success without being a jerk. All of those things played a part in me having success throughout my career. And I will say it was Roger Williams that helped me, and the Gabelli School of Business is such a big part of that. And you know, having a school of business named after a gentleman like Mario Gabelli says a lot. He's on our board, and I've gotten a chance to know him well. One of the best investors out there, and a great business leader. And so that's what I think. What I think about at Roger Williams. That's what I think about at the Gabelli School of Business. And I just hope you'd give it a really good consideration, because I think it can help you in ways that it helped me and more. And that's really what I wanted to share. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it back to Susan and for questions.
Tim, thank you so much for that very eloquent description of your experience, and thank you for being such a great friend to the school. Tim mentioned in his talk that he was with us about 2 months ago, and serving in the capacity of an executive in residence. He visited 4 or 5 of our classes, 1 MBA class, and then 3 undergraduate classes, just to be able to share some insights with our students from his long and very successful career. And that's something that we do kind of on a regular basis, invite alumni back to come and talk with students and share their insights and be resources for them. And I'd also like to just say a couple of things. I know we have some questions that have come up, and I want to leave lots of time for them, but Tim, you also talked about the importance of your co-op experience and your internships, and that is a particular area which really distinguishes Roger Williams and the Gabelli School of Business. The university overall writ large, because we were recently recognized by the Carnegie Foundation as being very preeminent in the area of community service and providing service to our nonprofit organizations in the region. And the other part of that is that our curriculum at the Gabelli School of Business is much more flexible than it is at many other business schools. And it's flexible in a very important way that we think, which is that it allows you to do multiple internships for academic credit. Some of our students will do up to 3 internships for academic credit, and most business schools limit your experiences there to just 1. And the reason that we provide that option for our students is because the experiential part of our education is very, very new. We're big believers in enabling our students to take what they're learning in the classroom and go out into the workplace or to a nonprofit organization or government organization and have the experience of working with a team, of being able to lead, of being able to follow, of being able to understand what it's like to have a deadline and a deliverable that you have to submit to a group of individuals that you've been working with. And so that's a very important part of both the university's approach to education and a very innovative and unique part of what we do at Roger Williams, to combine that in-class theory with our very dedicated and engaged faculty, but complement that with those external experiences that of course then lead to great outcomes for our students. So I see we have a lot of questions. Shall we get started with the questions, and maybe we can come back and have some further discussion if we have a little more time. Amy?
Sure, sounds good. So the first question we have is, what were the most impactful community engagement programs that you worked with?
I think that's for Tim. Is that for Tim or is that for me?
I assume so.
Okay. Yeah, I think the community engagement programs, I think about it. I actually, when I was here, did a co-op program with a sporting goods store, and in Barrington. I think it was called Barrington Sporting Goods Store. And the business was really struggling a little bit and trying to figure its way and compete against some emerging, bigger box sporting goods stores and chains and all. And so in that case, I was really assigned to assess their business and come back with a host of recommendations for the small proprietorship. And I did that, and I thought it was a valuable experience. I fast forward that, and I think my son had a similar experience working with a small bakery right here in Bristol. And, how do they market themselves? How do they use digital tools? And this was a proprietorship that didn't have much in the way of digital capabilities. But, you as students, you are the digital mavens, right? So enabling them to set up a Facebook page or to do some things, Instagram, and build out certain capabilities were experiences that he enjoyed on that. And more broadly, today, we do a lot of work on the community side. There's a host of programs that exist that are significant initiatives. Amy and Susan, you could probably talk even better about some of the things we're doing in some of our civic scholar programs.
Yeah, we do a lot of work in the Civic Scholars Program, and the Civic Scholars Program, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, is a program where our students do go out into the community and make contributions by way of their areas of expertise, and they do that in teams. It's another unique feature of the university and the Gabelli School. And Tim, you mentioned something in this context in your talk, but we are very big believers in ensuring that we graduate people who are going to be successful within business organizations or nonprofit organizations or government organizations, or whichever track they decide to choose as a career, or moving among those kinds of organizations. But at the same time, we also are very interested in making sure that our students have some understanding of what it means to be a good community citizen. And the way that we build that is through our external projects and through the Civic Scholars Program and that work that we do with organizations outside. One of my favorite stories about these kinds of projects, and I'll make this very quick because I know we have some more questions, but I think it's a great illustration of the kinds of things we do. A group of students cross-collaborating from the engineering school, the business school, and the School of Architecture a few years back got together, and they worked with a team of individuals from the town of Bristol, which is where we're located. And the town of Bristol wanted to take an old abandoned unused armory and turn that into a commercial marina in order to reinvigorate that part of the town and of the city, and help to provide some opportunities, some economic development opportunities for merchants and their citizens in the town of Bristol. So to fast forward, our students collaborating from the three schools did such a great job putting together the project plan for how they were going to do that, with the architects and the engineers playing their respective roles in terms of structures and rebuilding the inside of this building, to the business people figuring out the different accounting statements and the different financial mechanisms and plans and ideas for how this could all be put together from a financial standpoint. That project plan was so well done that the federal government ended up funding the project at almost $1 million to actually help the town achieve their goal. And now that is a marina. And if you come to visit, you can visit the marina. And it's a very busy place pretty much all year round, except in the dead of winter. So it's just one illustration of how our students can be great students and great community citizens at the same time.
Great, thanks, Susan. I love that project. It's such a great example.
I too. I love that story.
The next question is, how many internships would you recommend doing while at Roger?
Do you want me to answer that? We don't recommend any specific number, but every one of our students does at least one internship. And as I said earlier, our curriculum is flexible enough so that students can do multiple internships. And They usually will do those either starting the summer between their freshman and sophomore year, or more likely the summer between the sophomore year and the junior year. Students really want to do internships at different organizations just to get a better sense of whether they are more comfortable working in a larger organization, or they want to be part of a smaller, more entrepreneurial organization, or whether they want to work in the nonprofit area, or they want to work in sports or whatever. But our students go in all different directions, and not a recommended number, but at least one.
If I can add a perspective to that as well, and maybe from an employer perspective, when I spend time with interviewing candidates, even some that come through our internship program when I was at Samsung, to me, having a few internships is better than having none, and it's better than having one. And so I think the fact you're able to talk about different experiences that you had, different working team experiences, projects that you worked on, that you can actually give an analogy of how that might relate to that company, gives you an unquestioned edge over other candidates coming out of school. You have real world experiences, you have real world practices that have been applied. You are applying what you've learned. You know, you can learn a great deal at the university level. The key, and I think Roger Williams is doing this both with its community service programs as well as its internships, is experiential learning and applied learnings. Those are what are the competitive edges in the marketplace today. And if you can have a couple of those at an intern or co-op level, combined with something you might have done in the business school, the stock market programs, the different things that exist there, it gives you both an edge, and it helps you create your own value proposition that properly positions you and better positions you for jobs once you get out of school. So I think I can't underscore how important those experiences are, because again, they are experiences, and they are things that you can use to draw linkages to what that company you're going to apply for is struggling with or doing, that you can add value to.
And, you know, if I could just add to that, Tim, you bring up a great point in terms of the opportunities that our students have outside of the school, external to the school, and how important those are for them. But you also mentioned, I think, something else that's kind of critical and unique about the Gabelli School, and that is the programs that we offer to provide students with experiential content actually within their classes. A really good example is our student investing program, which is known as the Cafe. If you have visited, Roger, and I hope many of you have been able to visit before we got into our current set of circumstances, you may have visited the Wigan Lab, which is the Center for Advanced Financial Education place, room in our building where they make their decisions in terms of investing, buying, and selling. And they are assisted in those by Bloomberg Technology and by money.net. So we have all of the technology to support that program, as we do other programs, for example, in marketing research, in advertising. We have a student accounting program called VITA, where our student accountants go out into the community. But just to go back to the Cafe program, it is a very unique program for business schools, because unlike many other business schools that will have a student investing program where students make recommendations on investing decisions, buy and sell orders, our students are actually engaging in the buying and the selling themselves. They are making those decisions in the Wigan Lab on a daily basis, using real money in real time and 2 portfolios. They've had some ups and downs these last few weeks, but that's another part of the learning process, and we've all had those. So, you know, in addition to having those very helpful external programs, there are other programs like the advertising competition, like the Cafe, like the VITA accounting program. The newest one is something that I'm very proud of, and I'll brag just a little bit, and that is our student analytics group. And We have an analytics team that really works inside the business school to prepare themselves to go to the national competition for analytics teams every year. And this year it was supposed to be in Illinois, but it had to be changed, like so many other things, to a virtual competition. And as they have done every year since they started competing over the last 3 years, they came home with first and second place finishes in their division. And if you want to read some more about that, there's a story about it on the RWU website. If any of you are interested in analytics, we have a minor in that. And of course, analytics is something that spans all business functions. There's no organization of any kind that doesn't need to have some mastery of analytics to be successful these days. So I always like to get in my little bit of braggadocio about our analytics team finishing tops in the country once again.
Thanks so much. The next question is, I assume, well, directed to Tim or anyone, both could answer, but if you could give one piece of advice to an incoming freshman business student, what would it be?
Do you want to take that, Tim, or you want me to take that?
Why don't you go first and I'll go second?
Okay, I have lots of advice, but my main advice that I offer to freshmen, and I do visit, we have a freshman gateway business class called Enterprise that I visit every one of those in the fall to welcome freshmen and to introduce myself again and to share some additional insights and advice. And I will give you a preview of that visit to your class in the fall, which I hope you'll be part of. And that is get involved. Get involved in your education. Stay engaged, be part of your classes, make sure you're prepared for class, get involved, get engaged. Outside of class, there are lots of things for you to become part of. We have 70 different organizations at the university. We have multiple organizations within the business school. Whether you're interested in finance or marketing or accounting or economics or analytics, there's something for you within Gabelli. And if you have interests that are related to politics or social justice or particular forms of social service or assisting the community, any sort of organization really at all. We have organizations here, and I strongly encourage you to get involved in at least one, but if not one, then more than 3 others here. Lots of people from you who think differently, who are from different backgrounds. And that goes back, I think, to some of what Tim had said earlier about learning how to work with individuals who aren't exactly like you. And being part of the different organizations here really helps you to do that, but you have to take the initiative and get involved.
Yeah, I would just add one additional point. I agree with what you're saying, Susan. There's so much to be out there, right? And I think it relates to what I would suggest the one piece of advice is, and it ties back to that embracing change notion again, but more specifically, it is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're in a learning situation today. You're going into a university where you're going to be learning, but the learning doesn't stop there, right? And I learned more as I moved into businesses and went to different companies and different cultures and different organizations. But the point is that as soon as you are really comfortable in whatever you're doing, you generally stop learning. And so the more that you can challenge yourself, whether it's working with people, working with different groups, working on a different topic, whatever it might be, challenging yourself is critical. And getting out of your comfort zone is where you will learn the most. And you learn a lot about yourself. So think about your life, think about lifetime as a learning experience. And the more things that you can learn, and the newer things and changes are a big part of that, but just be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I know that sounds odd, but I think it makes more and more sense as you continue to grow. And if you get comfortable in whatever, a sport or whatever it might be, usually, you stop learning, and that in the business world is a recipe for failure. I could always tell when I was comfortable. My wife usually could tell when I was getting comfortable in a job, in a role, in a position. And so you want to have that healthy amount of discomfort, because you're going to continue to learn and do more and deliver greater things as a result of it.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And these are great questions. What's the next one?
Yeah, I completely concur with the discomfort and leaning into that. The next question is, have the dorm decisions started for students that have already continued? I'm assuming that means like housing or placement in housing. If that's what the intention of the question was, then yes, the housing placement has begun for the fall semester. We are operating with the intention to be back to normal this fall. So we've placed students in housing, and we will have our incoming students engage in that process shortly as well. If that wasn't the intention of your question, you can go ahead and put in the chat and let me know if you wanted us to answer that differently.
Amy, did you also want to mention the virtual tour of the freshman dorms?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Thanks. So we recorded recently an awesome video that takes you through each of the first year student residence halls. And one of our residence life staff members talks through the differences between the halls and the rooms and shows you the common areas and the bathrooms and everything. So it's a wonderful opportunity to see all of that, and really get an idea of what it's going to look like for you this fall. All right, so the next question was, were most of your internships at Roger Williams during the school year, or were they mostly during the summer? And also, were they with the same company during your time at Roger Williams?
I think that's directed to you.
Yeah, sure.
I think I did speak to some of that. But
it was both. I had an internship. At that time, it was referred to as a co-op, and I'm not sure that there's a big difference between the two. But the co-op was during the school year, and it was part of a small business class, I think at the time. And I also had summer internships, which were, and I say this with a smile, were paid internships as opposed to the other one. And I actually did an internship there. I think I did 2 internships at AT&T, which ultimately led to me getting hired at AT&T and starting my career there. So it was a combination of both. And they helped me, land that first job. And the other part that I think is so important about internships is, I don't know what the statistics are in precise levels, but many people get hired by the company they did an internship with. And that's not because the person had the background or the grades or whatever. It was because they fit in with that organization. They were able to see what that individual can contribute, how they work well with other people. And so the importance of the internship is it gives you a shot to make a connection. And that is so much more difficult to do on a piece of paper or even through LinkedIn or otherwise. It is somebody that they spent 10 weeks with or whatever it was, and they learned about the individual, they added value, they contributed, and they could work well with the other folks, and they made a connection. That's really the secret sauce, I believe, in terms of those internships. And it usually, it gives you a greater chance of getting hired by that company than starting that process, with a blank sheet of paper in May.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just to build out a little bit from that, we are seeing more and more that our students are getting those first post-bachelor's opportunities out from their internship. And some are offered positions that they do an internship between the junior and senior year. They're offered a position at the end of the summer of their junior year. They have to come back and graduate, obviously. That's a condition of the offer. More for exactly the reasons that, that Tim has said. The student understands the culture fits, they establish a track record of good performance, and it's a good match between the company and the student. And those things generally work out extremely well because the student has had a chance to try on the organization and the organization's had a chance to try on the student. And just when they decide it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, those offers generally lead to very successful opportunities for our students.
All right, great. The next question directed to Mr. Baxter. What helped you the most to get where you are now?
What helped me I think about it in a couple ways. One, I think we already touched on landing that first job or two was the education, was the experiential learning, i.e. The internships and co-ops. So I think those were critical in that first phase of getting into companies. Then it's up to you as an individual and how you build and how you develop. I touched upon earlier the fact that I had a lot of different experiences in those periods, especially at AT&T, which was more foundational, where I was involved with product management, sales, analytics, reporting, and the first job was surely not the end all. I was doing sales reports for a sales organization, a new company, if you will, and I didn't come out of school with the intent that I ultimately wanted to, create sales reports. But what that enabled me to do is to become valuable to the sales force, to the salespeople. And I was able to give them data and insight that they didn't have that helped them sell more things to their account or position them well with that retailer at the time. And that ultimately led to me then getting offered a job in sales. And so the more you're adding value to other groups, the more opportunities that get presented itself. So I would say building a foundation, being willing to move, horizontally in your career across to different areas, again, to learn different things are critically important. And then I think the other was, I touched upon it a little bit, is, you can have success without being a jerk. You can build a career and get along with people and work well with people, and I think that goes a long way because generally people want to be with people that they like being around, and so I think I learned a lot about that even from my dad in business, and where people respect and appreciate and value you. And at the same time, just as soon, hang out and have a beer, and get along, as well as dealing with the tough issues. So I think it's a combination of getting the experiential learning, being open for new opportunities, and move across, and maybe even move down before you move up. And then it's just a matter of, how you connect as individuals.
Next great question.
Yeah. The next question is, can you get a paid internship that also counts for credits?
Yes, absolutely. And most of our internships are paid internships. So you can do internships that you get paid for and get credit for.
That's a good combination.
It is a good combination. It's the combination we prefer, actually.
I think students would prefer that,
yes.
And parents surely would prefer that too.
This is true.
So we're all caught up with the questions for now. I know, Susan, you mentioned a couple other questions that you wanted to pose, so we can we can go ahead with that and see if any other questions come in before the end of the hour, if that sounds good.
Great. Well, I just wanted to reiterate a couple of things. I mentioned how important experiential learning is to those of us at the Gabelli School of Business, and the ways in which that manifests itself in terms of internships on our internal programs and our Civic Scholars programs and our Community Partnership Center, which is pretty tightly linked to our Civic Scholars group. But I also wanted to mention to everybody that we are very happy to answer any other questions that you might have. I think most of you are familiar with the fact that we offer a variety of majors within the Gabelli School of Business, from accounting to management to marketing to international business to finance and economics. And for every one of those majors, we offer a minor. We offer a special minor in data analytics, which I've already mentioned, and we offer a certificate in risk management, which is something like data analytics that applies to organizations across the board, whether you're the family business or you're Goldman Sachs, you still have to manage your risks. So it's another set of skills that you can develop here. And one of the great things about the university, in collaboration with the business school and the other schools that make up the university, is that you can take courses and you can take minors at other parts of the university, within other units of the university. You don't have to remain completely in the Gabelli School for all of your coursework. And I'll give you a couple of examples. We have had, for example, marketing majors who have minored in graphic design, if they're interested in going into that part of the business as a first job out of college. We have finance majors who minor in math because they're interested in finance. We've had students who have majored in management and minored in dance because this young lady wanted to open her own dance studio. So there is a large diversity of options for you, almost unlimited, depending on what your professional and personal interests are. And I hope that many of you have had a chance to visit us under circumstances that were much better involved. But if you have questions after this session is over, I'm very easy to find on the internet, and I welcome all of your questions. And I generally will get back to you, if not within a few hours, then definitely within 24 hours. And if I can't answer your question, I can get it to somebody who can answer your question. But I'd also like to add my congratulations to all of you. As Mr. Baxter said earlier, we all really feel for you in your senior year, and this probably not being what you anticipated in terms of ending your high school career, but I'm sure you're all making it, because we know from the class that we've admitted this year that it's a great group of students. A very talented group of individuals who have accomplished a lot in their high school years, who show things like adaptability and innovation. And we are so looking forward to welcoming many of you, if not all of you, to our campus in August, when we hope to be back on our beautiful campus that you can see behind Amy on her slide here. But again, in the meantime, if you come up with any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you. Please send them my way. And please, all of you, stay safe and stay well. I hope we'll be in touch in the months leading up to the beginning of the fall semester. And thanks for joining us this afternoon. It was great to have all of you with us. Anything else?
Thank you.
Great.
Looks like you got a few more questions might have come in.
I think we have
a couple thank yous.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I don't know, Tim, if you have any parting thoughts or words, and if there's any follow-up questions that people have, we can always, direct them appropriately. But it looks like there's some appreciation from the group, so that's a good thing.
Thank you all. You're very kind to send us the thank yous. Our pleasure.
Yes, I too would like to thank you guys. This truly is a tough time. And health aside, I'd say use this as an opportunity. I keep talking to my daughter about this, and I've talked to other people. There's a host of online programs or certificates. So if you want to learn a little bit more about insights or analytics or supply chain or something like that, there's many ways you can do that. And like I said to some of the seniors at Roger Williams last week, I do want to watch the season 3 of Ozark or Tiger King, but and they are pretty good. But you can use this time too to maybe pick up another skill or to get a little more understanding about something that might help you as you move into your fall semester or your fall beginning of your college career. So there are ways to use this as an opportunity to get a competitive edge. So think about that as well. But most importantly, really enjoyed spending some time with you. I hope you give Roger Williams a real serious consideration. It is a very unique university in terms of what it can bring forth, that combination of specialized business as well as some general learning and applied learning. That, please, as you think about your other choices out there, really probe into that, because the ability to have experiential learning, whether it's in the co-ops, the interns, all of those things, again, give you something on that resume, give you something on your bio that allows you to position yourselves for success post the university level. So I wish you all the luck on that, and I hope you all have a fabulous Sunday as well.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Baxter, Dean McTiernan. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and let us know how we can be helpful going forward.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye-bye.
Take care.